Interior Secretary Ken Salazar says that by now BP should have begun the top kill effort to plug the Gulf oil leak. But as the disaster continues, scientists are still trying to understand just how big the spill is. One of those scientists is Purdue University professor of mechanical engineering, Stephen Wereley. He joins us now to talk about it. So, Stephen, there's been a lot of talk about watching the video of this plume as it gushes out and trying to determine at what rate it's leaving and how much is actually coming out. We're still looking at a live picture of the oil escaping there. So talk to us about your calculations.
Sure. So 2 weeks ago, BP posted the first video of the disaster in action. And that was the first opportunity that the American public had to see the oil spilling into the Gulf of Mexico. I took the video that they posted and did a complicated analysis on it, but it's really very simple to explain. Basically, when you watch the spill cam that's now live, you see the oil shooting out of the end of the pipe. And if you watch it in slow motion, or watch some of the videos that BP has posted in slow motion, you can see these puffs and billows of fluid moving from frame to frame. And I just basically track how fast those move, and then I can calculate the flow of the oil. So
what's your determination?
So based on the video information that was released 2 weeks ago, I calculated that there was 70,000 barrels of oil per day coming out of that, what's called the riser pipe. That's the main leak. Now that's a couple of important provisos. The first is that that's a combination of oil plus gas. And as the oil floats up to the surface of the ocean, the gas comes out of the oil. It's dissolved in the oil, so it evaporates from the oil, dissolves from the oil, and the oil decreases in size by about a factor of a half. We haven't gotten really solid numbers on that yet, but it's about a factor of a half.
So in other words, it's one thing to talk about how much is actually leaking. It's another to talk about how much it ends up in the ocean.
Exactly. In fact, where it ends up is also a matter of great concern, because if a tanker spills on the surface of the ocean, what happens is you end up with a big oil slick that's sitting on the surface. Now this is happening a mile underneath the ocean. And so as the oil bubbles up towards the surface, it breaks up into smaller and smaller droplets that can be trapped underwater for a long time. So not all of it will make it to the surface.
So when we talk about the cleanup efforts and whatnot, I know that you're a mechanical engineer and focus more on that side, but do you know anything about the difficulty in cleaning it up depending on the size and also what you've just talked about, that it's so deep under the surface?
Yeah, so I guess there's two things that I can say about that as a mechanical engineer, and certainly not as a marine scientist or an oil field operations person. First of all, as the oil propagates to the surface, if it's coming out at a rate that's 10 times what you think it is, you certainly need 10 times the cleanup effort. Now the second important point to make here is that the oil that's coming out of the pipe is an important input parameter to marine scientists' models of how the loop current in the Gulf of Mexico operates. And that, having good models for how the oil will be convected, carried around the Gulf of Mexico, is also important in directing the cleanup and assessing the damage.
Now, Stephen, something that we've heard is that some scientists are dissatisfied with the White House, don't feel that the administration has pressed BP enough to get more information, more accurate information on how much is coming out of the pipe. Do you count yourself among those scientists? I mean, are you satisfied with the information that's out there?
Well, let's see. So I'm part of a group called the Flow Rate Task Group, and our job is to calculate what that flow rate is, to come up with a government-sanctioned, peer-reviewed number for what the leak of the oil is. Now, so we're certainly addressing the issue of how big is the leak today. Whether we should have acted sooner or not, I can't really say.
Okay. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for giving us your estimates for exactly how much oil is coming out of that pipe. Stephen Wereley is a Purdue mechanical engineering professor. Thanks again, Stephen, as